Oh, irony, you can be so brutal, because I actually started my first take with the following. I said, it's a Sunday, this means it's a casual Sunday, which I said to myself, I will make videos that I am a little bit more loose in terms of presentation, hence the name, Casual Sunday, and I can get away with a few more mistakes than on other days. Well, I can't get away with one, and that is just not turning on the microphone, so I just have to redo it. But with that little bit saltiness in myself, I'm just gonna say, let's start the review. And maybe you've already noticed the change of camera, because a review like this is a little bit of a pain in the ass for me, since I don't really have the space to show everything the way I want to, and in the hi-fi studio I don't have the proper chances to make some close-ups, so it is what it is. But the information you will get, and I would say let's just start off with these about this one. Price. Well, that's a little bit of a weird one for me, because I checked US pricing, which the second biggest part of my viewership is from, and I have a harder time still finding the right ones, because on Sony.com it says 1,050 for the subwoofer and soundbar. But that's just not true, because I found the UK price £330 and in Germany it's €330. So I would expect it to be somewhere around $350. I guess it's safe to say. And safe to say is also one thing. Let's cover the subwoofer real quick, because that one takes up too much space and light here on my desk. As you can see, you can actually lay it flat, but also upwards. And here is of course the port. And in terms of build quality, it's fine, it's quite heavy. But that's pretty much all I have to say about it. That's not much to show here, because there is only one port, the port for the power cable, which is 1.5 meters long. I would wish for that to be a little bit longer, because not everyone has space so close to the power outlet. And then there are two buttons. One is to power it on, which it pretty much just automatically anyways, and there is one for linking it with the soundbar. But that's not really necessary, at least for me, it did it anyways already automatically. So let's get into the soundbar, and let me actually just start with one thing. This soundbar is 50 centimeters long, half a meter. So what you should not expect is a lot of stereo separation. That's just not what it's meant for. This is meant to be small and under a TV. And that it does. So if you want something compact, this is the right one. If you want a really good soundbar with really great stereo separation, you just need something wider. But let's actually take already a little bit of a closer look at it. And here you can see there is this charge or power brick that comes with this cable, which is 2 meters long, which I would say is more than long enough, since in most situations you will have it very close to your TV anyways. And then that should not be an issue. On the top, you can actually already see the Sony logo, the NFC logo, and also the controls, which you don't need since we have a remote control. But here you can change the outputs, Bluetooth, Sony's music service, change the volume and turn it on. On the back we can see the port for the power, Ethernet, HDMI with audio return channel, analog in and TV in optical. Now personally, not a whole lot of ports, I would say. I would wish for Cinch, since I just prefer Cinch over this port, but it does the same, so it's fine. What would have been the icing on the cake would have been an USB in for direct connection to your PC, but since this is meant to be used with a TV and most people will use it with the optical, I get it. Just for example, the cheap Chinese TV that I have just doesn't have that, so I had to use analog in, which is not my preferred method, or just use this. Of course, it also has Bluetooth and of course wireless, and what we also have, as you can see already on your back, is glossy plastic, which I don't understand. No one will see it, but it will just scratch up and get dirty. On the front though, what we can also see is a grill that we can just easily remove and have a little bit of a better glimpse at the display. But before that, I also want to show that we have this nice leather texture here, or at least kind of fake leather texture. Now, the distance between the center of these two is 37 centimeters, and that's why you just can't expect a lot of stereo separation. But what I also want to do is turn it on, so I can show you this display. This will take a little bit of a while once it was plugged off. So once it's already usually plugged in and just in standby mode, and turns on quite quickly. But during that time, which takes up a little bit for the first time, also since it at least wants to pair with the subwoofer, I would say let's take a look at the remote. And I have to say, this for just a soundbar does a good job. Of course, here power on, input selection, then clear audio plus button, which also works with the presets, because Soundfields gives you different presets for music, cinema, also standard and clear audio plus, which I think worked the best. Display, an option if you use it with HDMI. Voice enhances the voice, especially nice for movies and such, and I use that. Night just reduces the dynamic, so the differences between something silent and loud isn't all that big at night. I personally don't like this because I want the dynamic, but I get it. Also the dimmer, which would dim the display if the unit actually turns on, which now will take a little bit of a while again. So you have two modes, you have bright and dark, and of course off. And the other controls are more for the music services, but here we can see separate controls for the volume of the subwoofer. I think it works from 0 to 12. I used 6, which was the sweet spot for me, but I'll get into that a bit later. Mute button, overall volume, and some more buttons. But let's actually see if it has already turned on. No, it's still doing its thing. You can also see the high-res audio button. Build quality of this unit is absolutely fine, since you won't really touch it anyways. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look. Here you can see dark, and you can also see off and bright. Off, of course, shows off until it actually turns off, but this is it. You could now, as you can see here, change. Let's actually see. Yes, it works up to 12, and the volume, let's check that as well, works up to 50. I used it very loudly on a TV, on a movie yesterday at around 37, but then it was already loud enough, which would almost bring me to the sound. But before that, I want to cover the functionality, because what you get is Bluetooth, you get the inputs that I already showed, you get Sony's music service either via Ethernet or with Wi-Fi. I personally did not really try that because I don't like the music service so much. It's a little bit of a clumsy, inconvenient solution, but it's there. In some regions, at least according to the manual, you also have Chromecast. I couldn't try that, but that's kind of what you have. More inputs would have been nice. The functionality otherwise, especially with the remote, works though good. So for most people who will just hook it up once to their TV, maybe to a console over the TV and such, it will work just fine. Now let's talk about the sound now. I want to cover the two most important parts, subwoofer volume and volume. Both of these are loud enough for a nice living room. Absolutely no issues, especially since I said I used the subwoofer at 6. Everything below that just shows that this is just too weak in terms of bass, because if you turn the subwoofer all the way off, you just don't have really any bass, just vocals, a little bit of some mids and highs, and that is not good enough. So leave it at 6, that was a good balance. Everything else felt a little bit too thick. Now, what I think are the two most important speakers on a surround system, center and subwoofer, because most dialogue comes out of the center, and this I would see as an enhanced center more than a surround system or a soundbar or anything like that. And then the subwoofer, of course, is the subwoofer, and this is pretty much most what you need, because most things in a TV show or in a movie are still dialogue, so you will get that here, and for some effects you get the rumbling bass. That is good enough. Of course, if you want some more effect speakers, then you have actually the option here wirelessly to add more. If that's the best solution, I'm not quite sure, because there are already proper surround solutions. But if you want something very compact that just gives you good vocals with some bass, this is it. So let's cover the actual sound qualities. The subwoofer, I have to say, doesn't extend super low. It's still, after all, due to the size, just limited. But it gives you enough volume. It's deep enough, not maybe super layered or something super structured, but it gets the job done. It never felt totally out of place. Of course, it could be more immersive, but after all, with a soundbar as small as this, you can't just expect a room-filling soundstage. It's just not the thing. But what you will get, especially on TV shows, YouTube videos and such, very good vocals. Clear highs, nice mids, because since this I see more as a center where the dialogue comes out from, this is good enough. This is, in terms of size, fine. And vocals had enough body to it, so it was quite rich, and still sound effects were there, so it's not an issue. Just for example, yesterday I watched Thor Ragnarok, and the experience was fine. It wasn't quite as room-filling and such as I'm used to it, usually having a big system with big speakers, but for its size, it worked fairly well. Now, I personally have to say that I would wish for something with more stereo separation, and there are bigger soundbars, but if you just don't have the space for that, something like a compact solution like this could work out quite good. But since we already talked about stereo separation, one thing that I don't think works really good above anything more than just normal living room volume is music. because first of all I miss stereo, because this is still just more mono, especially in terms of music, and no matter what preset you used, I didn't get that. Normal living room volume was fine, then you get an okay experience. This is more like if you would have a Sonos playing somewhere, and then it's fine, because the sound overall, just as long as you don't go too high in terms of volume, sounded okay, because then you don't notice it so much not having a big soundstage and just being mono. But not really for music. If you just want a soundbar to enhance what you have on a TV, because I can tell you that this, especially with the subwoofer and with this more of a kind of center speaker, definitely beats every sound system. Maybe not the most expensive ones that we have on the big TVs that have a standalone or pretty much inbuilt soundbar, yeah. But we also have to cover the price. Around $350, I would assume. I just didn't find the US price. I think it's still a little bit too much for what you get. Of course, you pay for the extra functionality and for the compact size, because after all, music service, Chromecast, adding that costs money, but you could just add that maybe somewhere, even though we don't have many ports on your own. But it's mostly the size, also Sony's quality, and the nice remote with the functionality. I personally think there are cheaper solutions. For example, my brother has one for 120, bigger subwoofer. I'm not quite sure about the high fidelity sound or the experience, but it definitely can loud as well. And I just don't think that difference between a cheap soundbar and a soundbar like this would be too drastical. If then you have higher end solutions, even from Sony with Dolby Atmos and so on, where you just pay more. So if you find this at around 200, I would be fine, because that's just my personal opinion. If I would pay for a sound bar, my limit would be at 200, because I want nice bass and I want good vocals. Anything more, I would just get a proper surround system for. And this just is a little bit more than $200. So if you find it maybe on a sale or something like that, or if you want Sony's system, the ecosystem and so on, you can get it. But I personally think the value is not quite there. Sound quality is good enough for what it is. In terms of size, you just have limitations. And that's where I'm gonna end this video with sound, which I'm very happy about, even though I had to do it over again. And that's where I'm gonna stop the video. I hope you liked it. Like I said, I like these casual Sunday videos. I just don't see things that seriously, even though it works out actually better once I see things a little bit more casual. So if you liked it, maybe a thumbs up, and let me know what you think about soundbars in general. Do you want to see more soundbar reviews in the future or not? Okay, bye.